Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Deku became a girl. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The world was not built for the weak. It was a lesson Izumi Midoriya learned at the tender age of 4, in a doctor's office that smelled of antiseptic and shattered dreams. People are not created equal. That was the reality of society. 80% of the population possessed a quirk, a supernatural ability that defined their individuality, their status, and their future. It was the genetic roll of the dice that turned reality into a comic book. People could breathe fire, lift cars with their minds, or stretch their limbs like rubber. The extraordinary had become the ordinary, and then, there was the other 20%. The relics. The leftovers of evolution. Izumi stared at her reflection in the glass of the train window, the morning sun of Muzidafa City flashing by in rhythmic bursts of light and shadow. She was small for her age, 14 years old but often mistaken for 12. She had a mess of forest green curls that refused to be tamed by a brush, framing a round face dusted with freckles. Her eyes were large, emerald pools that always seemed to be searching for something, usually an exit. She adjusted her black Gakuin uniform, the standard issue for Aldera Junior High. It felt a size too big, hanging loosely off her slender shoulders. It's fine, she told herself, gripping the strap of her bright yellow backpack until her knuckles turned white. Just keep your head down. Don't mutter. Don't stand out. Just survive until graduation. Across the train car, a man with a head shaped like a cactus was reading a newspaper. A woman next to him was levitating her phone to text with both hands. It was a world of wonders, a world of heroes, and Izumi was just a spectator. The incident at Tatooine Station that morning was loud. A giant villain, roaring with a quirk that increased his muscle mass, had knocked over a transmission tower. Izumi stood at the back of the police barricade, bouncing on the balls of her feet, her previous anxiety temporarily forgotten. This was her drug. This was the only time she felt the spark of life ignite in her chest. "That's Kamui Woods," she whispered, her voice accelerating into a rapid-fire mutter. "The rising star. His lacquered chain prison is effective for restraint, but against a villain with that much physical torque, he risks splintering his wood constructs. He needs to aim for the joints, or perhaps, hey, look at that kid," a bystander chuckled, pointing at her. "She's taking notes?" Izumi froze, blushing furiously. She clutched her battered notebook, Hero Analysis for the Future, Volume 13, to her chest. It was a habit she couldn't break. If she couldn't be a hero, she could at least understand them. She could understand the mechanics of hope. Cannon! A massive leg slammed down from the sky, shattering the pavement, and sending a shockwave that ruffled Izumi's skirt. A giant woman, empty lady, posed for the cameras, stealing the spotlight and the capture. Gigantification, Izumi mumbled, scribbling furiously, the pen nearly tearing the paper. High collateral damage risk, restricted to wide avenues, distinct weakness in urban density. She was lost in the data, in the beautiful mathematics of heroism. For a moment, she wasn't Izumi the quirkless. She was just a mind, sharp and analytical. "You're a fanba? Or a fangirl?" the man next to her asked, smiling kindly. Izumi looked up, offering a shaky, practiced smile. I just like heroes. I want to be one, someday." The man's smile didn't falter, but his eyes changed. It was that look. That mixture of pity and dismissal she had seen 1,000 times. "Well," he said, patting her shoulder. "It's good to have hobbies." Hobbies. Izumi turned away, the joy draining out of her like water from a cracked cup. Aldera Junior High was a place where dreams went to die, usually accompanied by the sound of cruel laughter. The classroom was chaotic. Students were showing off their quirks, eyes popping out, fingers turning into vines, small explosions crackling in palms. "Quiet down, you lot!" The homeroom teacher slammed his roll book onto the podium. "You're all third years now. It's time to think seriously about your futures." He held up a stack of papers. "I would pass out these career aptitude forms, but—" He smirked, tossing the papers into the air. "Why bother? I know you all want to go into the hero course," the class erupted. Cheers, howls, and a kaleidoscope of quirk activations filled the room. Yes, you all have wonderful quirks, the teacher said, waving a hand. But no power usage in school. Get a hold of yourselves. Teach. The voice cut through the noise like a whip crack. It was rough, arrogant, and undeniably commanding. Katsuki Bakugo sat with his feet up on his desk, leaning back with a casual disrespect that only the truly gifted could afford. He had ash-blonde hair that spiked up in every direction and red eyes that burned with a perpetual, simmering intensity. Don't lump me in with these extras, Katsuki scoffed. They'll be lucky to end up as sidekicks to some D-lister. I'm the real deal. The class shouted in outrage, but Katsuki just laughed, small explosions popping in his palms like firecrackers. Come on. I'll take you all on. Ah yes, the teacher noted, checking his list. Bakugo, you're aiming for UA High, aren't you? The room went silent. UA was the pinnacle. The training ground of All Might. It had a 0.2% acceptance rate. That's right. Katsuki jumped onto his desk, standing tall. I aced the mock exams. I'm the only one here with the stuff to surpass All Might. I'm going to be the richest, most famous hero of all time, and it starts with UA. Oh, the teacher interrupted, his tone bored. Midoriya, didn't you put down UA as well? The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Izumi shrank in her seat, burying her face in her arms. She wished for a quirk that could turn her invisible, or perhaps one that could open a hole in the floor to swallow her whole. Ha! It wasn't a laugh. It was a sound of pure disbelief. Katsuki froze. He turned his head slowly, his red eyes locking onto the small, trembling figure in the back row. Midoriya? A student whispered. No way, another laughed. You can't get into the hero course just by studying. She's quirkless. Is she insane? The laughter started as a ripple and grew into a wave. It crashed over Izumi, drowning her. She stood up, her legs shaking, her hands raised defensively. They got rid of that rule. She stammered, her voice high and thin. There's no precedent, sure, but the principal said that anyone can apply now. It's not impossible. Boom. Izumi yelped as an explosion slammed into her desk, blowing it apart, and sending her tumbling backward onto the floor. Smoke curled up from the ruined wood. Katsuki towered over her. He wasn't smiling. Hey, Deku, he growled, smoke rising from his palm. Deku. It was the name he had given her when they were children. It was an alternate reading of her name, Izuku, but he used it to mean wooden puppet or useless. Izumi scrambled back until her back hit the wall. Keikaku, I just... Forget the useless part, Katsuki hissed, leaning down until they were nose to nose. You're worse than useless. You're a liability. His voice dropped lower, vibrating with a strange, twisted intensity. You don't have a quirk. You're frail. You're a girl who cries when she scrapes her knee. And you think you can stand in the same ring as me? I don't. I'm not trying to compete with you. Izumi cried, tears pricking the corners of her eyes. It's been my dream since I was little. I won't know unless I try. Try? Katsuki's eyes widened, veins popping in his forehead. Try what? Try to die. Is that it? You want to get crushed by a villain in your first week so your mom can cry on the news? The cruelty of his words struck her harder than the explosion. What can you do? He shouted, sparking his palms again. You're nothing. You're quirkless. You're just a pebble in the road. The rest of the class watched, some uncomfortable, some amused. The teacher sighed, returning to his papers. All right, settle down, Bakugo. Don't damage school property. Katsuki glared at her for a second longer, his expression unreadable beneath the rage. Then, he scoffed and turned away. Whatever. Just stay out of my way, Deku. Izumi picked herself up, dusting off her skirt. Her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She kept her head down for the rest of the day, but the word echoed in her mind. Pebble. The end of the school day brought no relief. As Izumi packed her bag, she noticed her notebook, Hero Analysis number 13, was missing. Looking for this? She spun around. Katsuki was holding the notebook, flanked by two of his lackeys. Kaken, please, Izumi said, her voice trembling. Give it back. Katsuki looked at the cover. Hero analysis? You really are delusional, aren't you? He clamped the notebook between his hands. An explosion muffled the sound of burning paper. No! Izumi gasped. Katsuki tossed the charred, smoking book out the open window. Izumi rushed to the sill, watching it tumble down into the koi pond below. Why are you so mean? She whispered, turning to look at him. Katsuki shoved his hands in his pockets. His lackey snickered, but Katsuki didn't laugh. He looked at her with a cold, hard stare. Most top-tier heroes have stories about their school days, he said. I want mine to be perfect. I want to be the only one from this garbage dump of a school to make it to UA. It's about my brand. He walked past her, stopping at the door. He placed a hand on her shoulder, not gently. His grip was hot, warning of the power beneath the skin. Don't apply to UA, Deku, he said softly. I'm not saying this to be a jerk. I'm saying it because if you step onto that battlefield, you will break. And I don't want to watch them scrape you off the pavement. It sounded like a warning. It sounded like a threat. It sounded like he thought she was made of glass. He released her and walked out. One of his friends paused, looking back with a sneer. Man, she really doesn't get it, does she? The friend laughed. Hey, Midoriya. If you want a quirk so bad, there might be a way. Izumi looked up, hopeful despite herself. Take a swan dive off the roof. The boy cackled. Maybe you'll be born with a quirk in your next life. Katsuki stopped walking. He didn't turn around, but his shoulders tensed. Shut up, he snapped at his friend. Let's go. Left alone in the classroom, Izumi stood in the golden afternoon light. Her hands were shaking. Take a swan dive. Idiots, she whispered, her voice cracking. If I actually did it, that would be inciting suicide. You could get arrested. She walked out of the school, down to the courtyard. She fished her notebook out of the pond. The koi fish nibbled at the burned edges. My dreams, fish food, she muttered, wiping the slime off the cover. She held the soggy book to her chest and began the long walk home. Izumi took the shortcut through the underpass. It was darker here, the acoustic tiles amplifying the sound of her footsteps. Is he right? She asked the damp air. Am I just delusional? She thought about her mother. Inko Midoriya, a woman who loved her fiercely but apologetically. Every time Izumi talked about heroes, Inko would look at her with tear-filled eyes and say, I'm sorry, Izumi. I'm so sorry. She didn't want an apology. She wanted belief. Mom never said I could do it, Izumi whispered. She just cried. She recalled the video she watched as a toddler. All Might's debut. He was smiling, carrying people out of a disaster zone. Fear not. Why? Because I am here. Izumi mimicked the pose in the empty tunnel, raising a fist. I am here, she said weakly. A sound of slithering liquid made her freeze. A medium-sized invisibility cloak. The voice was wet, gurgling. Izumi turned slowly. Rising from the sewer grate was a nightmare. A massive entity made of dark green sludge, two manic yellow eyes floating in the muck. Why villain? Izumi squeaked, taking a step back. You'll do, the sludge monster hissed. It lunged. Izumi tried to run, but she wasn't fast enough. The sludge slammed into her, engulfing her instantly. It was cold, and tasted of oil and rot. It forced its way into her mouth, her nose filling her throat. I can't breathe. She clawed at the fluid, but her fingers passed right through. It was like trying to punch water. Don't struggle, little girl, the villain crooned, his voice vibrating inside her head. It'll only hurt for a minute. I just need to hide inside you. You're small, easy to wear. I'm dying. Panic, white-hot and primal, flooded her system. Her vision began to blur. Black spots danced in her eyes. No. Not like this. I haven't done anything yet. I haven't become anyone. She thought of her notebook. She thought of Katsuki's angry eyes. She thought of her mother waiting with dinner. Help me. Someone. Anyone. Fear not. The voice boomed through the tunnel, shattering the despair. It was a voice Izumi had listened to on loop for 10 years. The manhole cover flew into the air, spinning like a coin. A figure emerged from the shadows, a titan of muscle, blonde hair swept back in two sharp distinct tufts, a smile that shone brighter than the sun. I am here, the villain shrieked. All Might? Texas. All Might pulled his fist back. The air pressure in the tunnel dropped. Smash! The punch didn't even touch the villain. The wind pressure alone was like a hurricane. The sludge was blown apart, splattering against the tunnel walls. Izumi was released. She gasped, sucking in air, before the shockwave sent her tumbling. She lost consciousness before she hit the ground. Hey! Hey! Wake up! A light tapping on her cheek. Izumi opened her eyes. A blurry face came into focus. A very large, very famous face. Ah! She scrambled backward, hitting the concrete wall of the underpass. Thank goodness! All Might laughed, his voice booming. I thought I might have used too much force. You are safe now, young lady. And the villain is captured. He held up 2 soda bottles filled with the green sludge. Izumi's heart stopped. It was him. It was actually him. The symbol of peace. In the flesh. She fumbled for words. My notebook. I need an autograph. She grabbed the soggy notebook from her bag. She opened it to a blank page, and froze. He had already signed it. A massive, sweeping signature that took up 2 pages. Thank you? She bowed so low her forehead nearly scraped the asphalt. I'll treasure this. It's a family heirloom. Think nothing of it. All Might gave a thumbs up. Now, I must be off to deliver this guy to the police. Stay out of trouble. He crouched, preparing to jump. Wait. Izumi reached out. Don't go. Not yet. I have to ask. You're leaving already? Pro-heroes are constantly fighting time as well as enemies. All Might said. Stand back. He launched himself into the air. Izumi didn't think. It was a recurring problem. She just moved. She lunged forward and grabbed onto his leg. Hey now! All Might shouted as they soared over the city. Let go! I love my fans, but this is excessive. If I let go now, I'll die. Izumi screamed, her cheeks flapping in the wind. Oh. Good point. I have to ask you something. Izumi yelled over the roar of the wind. It's important. All right. Close your eyes and mouth. They landed on the roof of a nondescript office building. Izumi collapsed, wheezing, her legs shaking uncontrollably. That was reckless, All Might scolded, wiping his brow. You could have been killed. Knock on the door downstairs to let yourself out. He turned to leave. Wait. Izumi struggled to her feet. Please, All Might stopped. I really have no time. Can a quirkless person be a hero like you? The question hung in the air, fragile and heavy. Izumi squeezed her eyes shut, her fists clenched at her sides. I don't have a quirk. I'm small. I'm weak. Everyone tells me I should give up. They say I'll just get in the way. They say I'll get killed. She opened her eyes, staring at his broad back. But I want to save people. I want to save them with a smile that says everything will be alright. So, can I? Can someone like me ever be like you? Steam began to rise from All Might's body. Young lady. His voice sounded strained. I've always been the one who needed saving, Izumi continued, the words spilling out like a dam breaking. But I want to be the one reaching out my hand. I want to be strong enough to. Poof. A massive cloud of steam exploded around All Might. Izumi coughed, waving her hand. All Might? When the smoke cleared, the Titan was gone. In his place stood a skeletal man with sunken eyes, sharp angles, and baggy clothes that hung off his emaciated frame. Izumi screamed. An imposter? Where did All Might go? I am All Might, the skeleton man said, blood trickling from his mouth as he sat down heavily. No way. You're like a twig. You're a fake. The man sighed, lifting his shirt. Izumi gasped. On the left side of his torso was a scar. It wasn't just a scar, it was a crater. The skin was purple and twisted, looking like a spiderweb of agony. I got this in a fight 5 years ago, All Might said softly. Respiratory system half destroyed. Stomach entirely removed. I've undergone multiple surgeries. I can only do hero work for about 3 hours a day now. Izumi covered her mouth. 5 years ago? Was that Toxic Chainsaw? You know your stuff, All Might smiled grimly. But no. This was a villain the public doesn't know about. I asked that it not be made public. The symbol of peace cannot be seen as fragile. He looked at Izumi. His blue eyes, usually shadowed, were piercing. Pro-heroes are always risking their lives. Some villains just can't be beaten without powers. He stood up, walking to the railing of the roof. He looked out over the city. You want to know if a quirkless person can be a hero? Izumi held her breath. Please. Say yes. Lie to me if you have to. I cannot simply say yes, All Might said. It is not just about spirit. It is about physics. It is about reality. He turned to face her. The look on his face wasn't cruel. It was heartbreakingly gentle. If you want to help people, there are other ways. You could become a police officer. They get a lot of grief because the heroes capture the villains, but it's a fine profession. Izumi felt her heart crack. It was a physical sensation, a sharp pain in the center of her chest. It's not wrong to dream, All Might said, walking past her toward the roof access door. But you have to see reality, young lady. A hero needs power to protect others. Without it, you are only putting yourself in danger. The door clicked shut. Izumi was alone on the roof. The wind picked up, whipping her hair across her face. I see, she whispered. She looked down at her hands. They were small. Soft. Unscarred, I guess. Kaken was right. Walking home felt like a funeral procession of one. Izumi didn't look at the sky. She stared at her shoes. The words replayed in her mind, a broken record of validation for every bully she had ever faced. Without power, you are only putting yourself in danger. You're a liability. Take a swan dive. She stopped. An explosion rocked the street a few blocks away. Smoke billowed into the sky, thick and black. A villain attack? Her feet moved automatically. She took a step toward the smoke, then stopped. Don't go. You're not a hero. You're just a spectator. You're just a nuisance. But her legs didn't listen. It was muscle memory. It was an addiction. Before she realized it, she was running. When she arrived at the scene, the Tatooine shopping district was in chaos. Fire was everywhere. The heroes were standing around, Death Arms, Kamui Woods, Empty Lady, but none of them were moving. Why aren't they doing anything? Izumi muttered, pushing through the crowd. Then she saw it, the sludge villain. It's my fault, Izumi whispered, her blood running cold. He escaped. Because I grabbed All Might. Because I distracted him. The villain had a hostage. He was suffocating them, using their quirk to cause explosions that kept the heroes at bay. It's like a minefield, Death Arms shouted. I can't get close. I need a two-lane street. Empty Lady cried. We have to wait for someone with a suitable quirk. Wait. Izumi thought, horror dawning on her. While he suffocates? She looked at the hostage. The sludge was covering his face, but she could see the hair. Ash blonde. Spiked. And the eyes. Red eyes, wide with terror and rage. Kaken. He was struggling, setting off explosions that only fed the chaos, but he couldn't breathe. The sludge was forcing its way down his throat, just like it had done to her. Katsuki saw her in the crowd. Their eyes met. For the first time in her life, Izumi didn't see arrogance in Katsuki Bakugo's eyes. She saw a plea. Help me. Izumi didn't think. The logic that All Might had given her, the reality, the danger, the weakness, it all evaporated. She screamed. She ducked under the police tape and sprinted. Hey! Come back! You'll get killed! The heroes shouted. Izumi ignored them. Her legs pumped harder than they ever had in gym class. The heat from the fire seared her skin. The smell of burning rubber filled her nose. What do I do? What do I do? She remembered her notes. Page 25. Determine the weak point. The sludge was fluid. It had no solid form. Except the eyes. She ripped her yellow backpack off her shoulders. With a grunt of effort, she swung it around and hurled it. The bag flew through the air, the heavy textbooks inside acting as a projectile. It slammed directly into one of the villain's floating eyes. Gah! The villain recoiled in pain. For a split second, The sludge loosened its grip on Katsuki's mouth. Katsuki gasped, sucking in a desperate breath of air. Deku? Izumi skidded to a halt in front of him. She didn't have a plan. She didn't have a sword or super strength. She plunged her hands into the slime, grabbing at the muck, trying to claw it away from his face. Kaken! She cried, tears streaming down her soot-stained face. Hold on, why? Katsuki choked out, his voice raspy. Why are you here? I don't know. Izumi screamed back, tearing at the slime even as it tried to swallow her hands. My legs, they just moved on their own. She looked at him, her emerald eyes burning with a fierce, terrifying light. You looked like you were asking for help. The sludge villain recovered. You again? He roared. He raised a massive tendril of slime, hard as concrete. I'll crush you both, you little pests. The shadow loomed over Izumi. She knew she was going to die. She braced herself, shielding Katsuki with her small body. I'm sorry, Mom. The blow never landed. A hand grabbed Izumi's wrist. A hand grabbed Katsuki's arm. I really am pathetic, a deep voice rumbled. Izumi looked up. All Might stood there, in his muscle form, blood spraying from his mouth but his smile wider than ever. He was blocking the sludge with his own body. I told you the traits of a great hero, All Might shouted, but I failed to live up to them myself. All Might! Izumi gasped. Pros are always risking their lives. All Might roared. He tightened his grip on the villain. Detroit. He punched. Not at the villain, but at the air. Smash! The world turned white. The wind pressure was catastrophic. It created an updraft that changed the weather. The sludge was vaporized, scattered into the atmosphere. The fires were blown out instantly, and then, it started to rain. The crowd stood in stunned silence as the clouds swirled above the city. All Might stood tall, steam rising from his body, his fists raised high. Izumi lay on the pavement, battered, bruised, and soaked, but alive. Beside her, Katsuki was coughing, staring at the ground. The aftermath was a blur of flashing lights and stern voices. Are you insane? Kamui Wood scolded, pointing a finger at Izumi's face. You have no quirk. You jumped into a hostage situation. You could have gotten yourself killed and made things harder for us. Reckless. Absolutely reckless. Death Arms added. Izumi stood there, bowing her head, taking the scolding. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She knew they were right. She had been useless. She hadn't saved anyone. She had just stalled until All Might arrived. A few yards away, the scene was different. The heroes were swarming Katsuki. That quirk is amazing, kid. You held out for so long. You're a natural. When you graduate, come to my agency. Katsuki didn't look happy. He sat on the back of an ambulance, a towel around his shoulders, glaring at the ground. He didn't look at the heroes. He kept glancing sideways, at the small girl being yelled at by the police. Eventually, they let Izumi go. She walked home in the twilight, exhausted. Her uniform was ruined. Her throat hurt. Well, she sighed. At least I tried. Even if it was, just for a second. DKU. She flinched, turning around. Katsuki was running toward her. He stopped a few feet away, panting. He looked furious. Keikaken? Listen to me. He hunched over, shaking. I never asked for your help. And you didn't save me. Izumi blinked. I know, I was fine. I would have gotten free on my own. He shouted, his voice cracking. Don't look down on me. You're a quirkless weakling. You're the one who needs saving. Don't you dare think you can pity me. He glared at her, breathing hard. Then, he turned sharply. I don't owe you anything. He stormed off. Izumi watched him go. A small smile touched her lips. He's energetic. She turned back to walk home. I am here. All Might zoomed around the corner, skidding to a halt in a pose. All Might? Izumi jumped. Wait, weren't you swarmed by reporters? Ha! Shaking them off is a piece of cake. He struck another pose. Why? Because I am All Might, blurg. He deflated instantly, spewing a fountain of blood. Ah! Are you okay? Izumi fussed, reaching for a tissue. I'm fine, the skeletal man waved her off. He straightened up, looking at her seriously. Young lady? I came here to thank you. And to correct what I said earlier. Correct? Izumi looked down. No. You were right. I got in the way. If you hadn't been there, All Might said, if you hadn't run in, I would have been a fake hero, standing on the sidelines watching a child die. You spurred me to act. Izumi looked up, surprised. Of all the people there, All Might said, placing a hand on his chest. Of all the pro-heroes, you were the only one who moved. Izumi felt tears welling up in her eyes again. There is a story, All Might continued softly, about every great hero. From their early years at school to their greatest triumphs. Do you know what they all have in common? Izumi shook her head, a tear slipping down her cheek. When they faced a situation where someone needed help, their bodies moved before they could think. Izumi gasped. She clutched the fabric of her uniform over her heart. That sensation? That lightning bolt in her legs. That's what happened to you today, isn't it? Yes, she whispered. All Might smiled. It wasn't the practiced grin of the symbol of peace. It was the soft, proud smile of a man named Toshinori Yagi. You told me you wanted to save people with a smile. You told me you wanted to be strong. He leaned forward. I have been looking for a successor. Someone to inherit my power. And I think I have found her. Inherit? Izumi blinked through her tears. But quirks can't be transferred. Mine can, All Might said. But that is a conversation for later. Right now, I need you to listen. The wind blew through the quiet street, carrying the scent of rain and new beginnings. Izumi Midoriya. She looked at him, her vision blurry with tears. You can be a hero. Izumi's knees gave out. She collapsed onto the pavement, curling into herself, sobbing. It was the only thing she had ever wanted to hear. The only permission she had ever needed. All Might knelt beside her, awkwardly patting her head with a large, bony hand. It will be hard, he murmured. The path is dangerous. But looking at you, I believe you have the heart of a hero. The emerald heart. Izumi cried until she had no tears left, unaware that her story, the story of the greatest hero the world would ever know, had just begun. The morning sun was cruel. It offered no warmth, only a glaring spotlight on the mountain of refuse that loomed over the coast of Mizurufu. Dagoba Municipal Beach Park had once been a jewel of the coastline. Now, it was a graveyard for the city's unwanted things. Rusted refrigerators, tires worn bald by miles of asphalt, shattered electronics, and driftwood skeletons piled high enough to block out the horizon. It smelled of brine, rust, and rot. It's a lot, Izumi Midoriya squeaked, clutching the straps of her backpack. Standing beside her, looking absurdly out of place in a crisp white dress shirt and cargo pants, was the skeletal form of Toshinori Yagi, the true form of All Might. It is a lot, Toshinori agreed, coughing slightly into his fist. But this, young Midoriya, is your first step toward heroism. You want to go to Yui High, correct? Yes. Izumi nodded vigorously. It's the only school I've ever wanted to attend. Yui has the toughest hero course in the country, Toshinori said, walking toward an old, overturned truck chassis. And you, my girl, are starting from zero. No, scratch that. You are starting from the negatives. Izumi flinched. Negatives? You have spirit, Toshinori said gently, turning to look at her. His deep blue eyes, sunken in shadow, scanned her frame. But you are small. Very small. Izumi looked down at herself. She was barely 156 centimeters tall. Her arms were thin, her wrists delicate. She had spent her life avoiding physical confrontation, shrinking away from bullies. She was soft. My quirk, one for all, Toshinori explained, his voice dropping to a reverent whisper, is the culmination of power cultivated by 8 generations of heroes. It is a torch passed from hand to hand, growing brighter and hotter with each successor. If you were to try and receive that power now, with this body. He paused for dramatic effect. My limbs would pop off. Izumi guessed, trembling. No, Toshinori said gravely. You would explode. From the inside out. Your limbs wouldn't just pop off, you would be vaporized. Izumi turned pale green. Vaporized. Yes. To prevent that, you must become a vessel capable of holding the power. You must forge your body into a weapon tough enough not to shatter when you pull the trigger. He gestured grandly to the trash heap. And this garbage dump is your gym. He pulled out a stack of papers. I call this the aim to pass, American Dream Plan. Izumi took the papers. They were detailed. Terrifyingly detailed. Sleep schedules, dietary restrictions, high protein, calcium supplements, study blocks, and a physical labor chart that looked like it violated several labor laws. You have 10 months until the entrance exam, Toshinori said, holding up a finger. In those 10 months, you must clear a path through this beach. You will move the trash, clean the sand, and build the muscle required to handle one for all. Izumi looked at the trash. She looked at her small hands. Then she looked at All Might. For the first time in her life, someone was telling her how to become a hero, not why she couldn't be one. She gripped the papers tight. I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes. Month 1 to 3, the reality check. The first week was hell. Izumi learned very quickly that spirit did not translate to physical strength. Trying to drag a rusted safe across the sand felt like trying to push a building. The sand shifted under her feet, robbing her of leverage. The metal cut her fingers even through the gloves. Toshinori watched her like a hawk. He was a nervous mentor. Every time she stumbled, he flinched. Every time she wheezed, he looked ready to call it off. Young Midoriya, maybe take a break. He called out from his perch on a refrigerator. I'm fine. Izumi gasped, her face red, sweat stinging her eyes. She was trying to move a large truck tire. It weighed more than she did. Toshinori bit his thumb. I have to be careful, he thought. She is not a young man. Her bone density, her muscle distribution, it's different. If I push her too hard in the wrong way, I won't build a hero, I'll break a child. He adjusted the plan. He focused less on pure bulk and more on core strength, agility, and endurance. He had her doing yoga for flexibility, sprints for explosive power, and lower body resistance training. By the second month, Izumi was perpetually exhausted. She fell asleep in class regularly. Her grades dipped slightly, causing her mother Inko to worry. Izumi, honey? Inko asked one evening at dinner. You've been coming home so late. And you're so dirty. Are the boys at school bothering you again? Izumi looked up from her rice, her eyelids heavy. No, Mom. I'm just training. Training? Inko looked at her daughter's arms. There were new bruises, scratches, and a constant tremor of fatigue. For Yue? Yeah, Inko sighed. She put down her chopsticks and walked over, wrapping her arms around Izumi. You know I love you, right? You don't have to prove anything to anyone. I know, Izumi leaned into her mother's warmth. But I have to prove it to myself. Month 4 to 7, the grind. Spring turned to summer. The heat at the beach became oppressive. The smell of the garbage worsened in the humidity. But something was changing. Izumi Midoriya was changing. She wasn't getting huge. She didn't look like a bodybuilder. But the softness was vanishing. Her arms, once stick-thin, were now defined by cords of lean, functional muscle. Her legs, constantly fighting the sand, had become powerful pistons. She could move the tire now. She could drag the safe. Toshinori brought her lunch every day. He sat with her, telling stories of his early days, of his master, Nana Shimura. She was a woman too? Izumi asked one day, biting into a protein bar. Yes, Toshinori smiled, a distant look in his eyes. She was strong. Not just physically, but here. He tapped his chest. She floated like a leaf but hit like a hammer. You remind me of her sometimes. Not in the way you fight, but in the way you worry. Izumi laughed weakly. I worry a lot. It means you care, Toshinori said. But you must learn to trust your own power. When the time comes, hesitation is fatal. At school, the dynamic had shifted. Katsuki Bakugo had gone quiet. He still glared at her. He still walked with an arrogant swagger. But he stopped engaging. He stopped blowing up her desk. It was as if he had decided she wasn't worth the effort anymore. Or perhaps he was waiting for her to fail on her own. Izumi didn't have time to worry about Katsuki. She was too busy trying not to die under the weight of a Honda Civic bumper. Month 8 to 10, the final push. Winter brought a biting wind off the ocean, but Izumi barely felt it. She was a furnace of activity. The beach was almost clear. What had been a mountain range of trash was now a flat expanse of golden sand. The horizon was visible again. 10 months. Izumi stood atop the final pile, a pyramid of scrap metal and debris she had assembled herself. The sun was rising, painting the sky in hues of violent orange and soft purple. She was shirtless, wearing only a sports bra and track shorts, her skin tanned from the months of exposure. She screamed. It wasn't a scream of fear or pain. It was a primal roar of accomplishment. I did it! Tashinori arrived at the parking lot entrance. He dropped his grocery bag. His jaw unhinged. Oh my goodness! He transformed, puffing into his all-might form in a cloud of steam. He rushed over to the base of the pile. Young Midoriya! He boomed. You didn't just clean the section I asked for. You cleaned the entire beach. Even the area outside the park limits. Izumi slid down the pile, landing gracefully in the sand. She was panting, her body gleaming with sweat. She looked up at him, her eyes fierce. I wanted to be sure, she said. I wanted to be ready. All Might looked at her. She was still small. She would always be small compared to the villains she would face. But the frailty was gone. She was compact, dense with power, like a coiled spring. She was a fighter. You have exceeded my expectations, All Might said, his voice thick with emotion. You have prepared the vessel. He reached up and plucked a single strand of golden hair from his head. Now, he said, holding it out to her. It is time for the ceremony of transfer. Izumi's eyes widened. She wiped her hands on her shorts, ready for something mystical. A blood pact? A chant? Eat this, All Might said. Izumi froze. The seagulls cried overhead. The waves crashed. Huh! It doesn't matter what it is, All Might explained hurriedly, seeing her expression. It just needs to be DNA. Hair is the easiest. Come on, we don't have much time before the exam. Eat. Eat. That's gross. Izumi shrieked. Do you want the power or not? With a gag and a grimace, Izumi swallowed the hair. The UA entrance exam. The gates of UA High School were larger than life. They were the gates to Olympus. Izumi stood in the crowd of examinees, her stomach doing backflips. She felt different. Or maybe she didn't? She had eaten the hair 3 hours ago. Did she have super strength now? She flexed her hand. Nothing happened. Maybe it didn't work, she panicked. Maybe my stomach acid dissolved the quirk. Out of my way, Deku. The voice was low and dangerous. Izumi stiffened. Katsuki walked past her, not even looking at her. He was focused, his eyes fixed on the building ahead. Good luck, Kaken, she whispered automatically. He paused, just for a second, then scoffed, and kept walking. Izumi took a deep breath. Okay. Just walk. Don't trip. Don't, she tripped. Her foot caught on an uneven paving stone. Gravity took hold. She braced for the impact, squeezing her eyes shut. Great. First day, and I'm face planting. But the impact never came. She felt weightless. She opened her eyes. She was floating 3 inches off the ground. Are you okay? A bubbly voice. Izumi looked up. A girl with a round face, rosy cheeks, and brown bobbed hair was smiling at her. She had her hand placed gently on Izumi's backpack. I stopped you with my quirk, the girl said, tapping her fingertips together. Izumi dropped gently to her feet. Sorry I didn't ask first. But it's bad luck to trip, right? WW. Izumi stammered. Her brain short-circuited. A girl. A nice girl. Talking to me. I'm nervous too. The girl chirped. Let's do our best, okay? She waved and walked off toward the building. Izumi stood there, frozen. I talked to a girl. Well, she talked to me. But it counts. The orientation. The auditorium was dark, lit only by the spotlight on the stage. Present Mike, the voice hero, was screaming. Are you ready? Silence. Tough crowd. Izumi sat hunched in her seat, clutching her ID card. She was trying to listen to the rules, but her mind was racing. 3 types of robots. Points based on difficulty. 1 pointer, 2-pointer, 3-pointer. Destroy them to pass, she began to mutter. Robots mean physical durability. If I use a striking technique, I need to aim for wiring or joints. But I don't know how to use one for all yet. If I use it at 100%, I might break my arm. But if I don't use it, I can't break metal. Excuse me. A hand shot up in the row in front of her. A tall boy with glasses and blue hair stood up, pointing a rigid finger at the stage. May I ask a question? The handout clearly lists 4 types of villains, yet you have only explained 3. If this is a printing error, you should be ashamed. He then whipped around, his finger pointing directly at Izumi. The spotlight seemed to follow him. And you? With the curly hair, Izumi squeaked. And me? You've been muttering this entire time. It's distracting. If you're here on a sightseeing trip, you should leave immediately. The entire auditorium turned to look at her. Hundreds of eyes. Izumi shrank into her seat, her face burning so hot she thought she might combust. Sorry, she whispered. Okay, Examinee 7111. Present Mike shouted. Thanks for the segue. The 4th villain is worth 0 points. It's an obstacle. A gimmick. If you see it, just run away. Battle Center B. The practical exam venue was a mock city. It was enormous. Skyscrapers, streets, traffic lights, all fake, all concrete. Izumi stood at the gate, wearing her green tracksuit. She was shaking. This was it. The moment of truth. She looked around. The boy with glasses, Tenya Ida, was there, warming up his engines. The nice girl, Ochako Uraraka, was taking deep breaths nearby. Izumi slapped her cheeks. Focus. You have All Might's power. You have the beach training. You can do this. Start. President Mick's voice blared from the tower. What are you waiting for? There are no countdowns in real battles. Go. 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 The other examinees surged forward like a tide. Izumi was left in the dust. Wait. Wait for me. She ran into the city. It was chaos. Explosions everywhere. Debris flying. Take that. Die, robot. By the time Izumi reached the main street, the ground was littered with scrap metal. The other students were efficient. They were using lasers, hardening quirks, speed quirks. They were tearing the robots apart. Izumi ran down an alleyway. A 1-pointer rolled out. Target acquired. Okay. Izumi clenched her fist. One for all. Activate. She punched. Nothing happened. No lightning. No power. Just her fist hitting metal. Ow. She shook her hand, wincing. Why isn't it working? The robot raised a mechanical arm. Izumi shrieked and scrambled back, barely dodging the strike that cracked the pavement. She ran. How do I turn it on? All Might said clench your butt cheeks and yell smash, but that's vague. Do I need to be angry? Do I need to focus? 10 minutes passed. Izumi had 0 points. She was panting, covered in dust, running aimlessly through the mock city. Everywhere she looked, robots were being destroyed by other people. I'm going to fail. After all that work. After eating the hair. I'm going to fail. The ground began to shake. It wasn't a vibration. It was an earthquake. Buildings groaned. Windows shattered. From the center of the city, a shadow rose. It was titanic. The 0-pointer. It was taller than the skyscrapers. Its treads crushed the road like it was made of cardboard. It looked less like a robot and more like a god of destruction. That's the obstacle? Someone screamed. It's huge! Run! Run away! The students turned and fled. It was a stampede of panic. Izumi turned to run with them. It was the logical choice. It was worth 0 points. There was no reason to fight it. She took a step back. Ow! A cry of pain cut through the roar of the robot. Izumi froze. She looked back. Lying in the rubble, right in the path of the massive tracks, was the nice girl. Uraraka. Her leg was pinned under a slab of concrete. The 0-pointer loomed over her. Its metal claw raised, ready to sweep the street clear. The other students were running away. They were too far. She's going to die. The thought was instant. It wasn't a question. It was a fact. If that tread hit her, she would be crushed. Izumi's legs moved, just like with the sludge villain. Her body ignored her brain. She turned around and sprinted toward the monster. Hey! Don't! Ida shouted from the distance. Izumi didn't hear him. She only heard the blood rushing in her ears. She reached the debris, but she couldn't lift it in time. The robot was too close. I have to stop it. I have to smash it. She looked at her legs. She remembered the beach. The sand. The weight of the trash. Clench your butt cheeks, and scream from within your heart. Power. It flooded her system. It was sudden, violent, and overwhelming. Red veins of energy surged up her legs. The concrete beneath her sneakers cracked. She jumped. She didn't just jump, she launched. She flew upward like a missile, the wind tearing at her face. She soared past the first floor, the second, the 10th. She was eye level with the 0-pointer. The robot's sensors locked onto her. It swung a massive arm. Izumi pulled her right arm back. She felt the power pooling there, thick and volatile. It felt like holding a grenade with the pin pulled. I can't control it, she realized with terrified clarity. It's too much. But she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Smayawash. She punched the robot's faceplate. The impact was sickening. The metal crumpled like paper. A shockwave erupted from her fist, spiraling out and twisting the air. The massive head of the robot caved in. The force traveled down its neck, shattering its internal mechanisms. Explosions rippled through its body. The Titan began to fall backward. Izumi hung in the air for a second, suspended in the glory of the strike. Then, the pain hit. It wasn't pain. It was erasure. Her right arm, her sleeve was shredded. The limb itself was purple, swollen, and twisted at a horrific angle. The bones were pulverized. Gah! She began to fall. The ground was rushing up to meet her. My legs. She tried to kick, to prepare for a landing. Agony shot up her spine. Her legs were broken too. The jump. The sheer force of the takeoff had shattered them. She was a ragdoll. A broken toy falling from the sky. I'm going to die, she thought numbly. I saved her, but I'm going to splatter. She saw the concrete getting closer. She squeezed her eyes shut. Slap. Her descent stopped abruptly. She hovered inches from the ground. Release. She fell the last 2 inches, landing on her back with a wet thud. Are you okay? Izumi turned her head weakly. Uraraka was there, floating nearby, vomiting a rainbow of sparkles. She had slapped Izumi in midair to negate her gravity. The buzzer sounded. Time's up. Silence descended on the battle center. The dust settled. The other students slowly crept back, staring. Did you see that? She took down the 0-pointer. With one punch? Look at her arm. Oh God, look at her legs. Izumi lay there, staring at the sky. The adrenaline was fading, and the true horror of the injury was setting in. Every nerve ending was screaming. She tried to move and let out a high, keening whimper of agony. Her arm wasn't just broken, it looked destroyed. The skin was bruised black and blue instantly. Her fingers were twisted. That doesn't look like a normal quirk drawback, a student whispered, sounding nauseous. Is she alive? Make way! Make way! A small, elderly woman in a nurse's outfit hobbled through the crowd. Recovery girl. She took one look at Izumi and frowned deeply. Oh dear. This is bad. She knelt beside Izumi. Can you hear me, dearie? Why yes. Izumi gasped, tears leaking from her eyes. 0 points. Don't worry about points right now, recovery girl scolded gently. You destroyed your own body. It looks like you've never used your quirk before. She leaned in. Her lips elongated. Smooch. She kissed Izumi's forehead. A green light enveloped Izumi. Her metabolism accelerated into overdrive. The shattered bones began to knit together. The swelling went down, but the fatigue was instant. Using that much healing energy drained Izumi's stamina completely. It's healed. Izumi slurred. Barely, recovery girl sighed, looking at the exhausted girl. We'll need to get you to the infirmary for a proper checkup. The bones are set, but the trauma is severe. She stood up, looking toward the observation tower where the teachers were watching. Her expression was grim. All Might, she thought angrily. What have you done to this child? This power is too much for her. Izumi's eyes fluttered closed. The last thing she heard was the whispers of the other students. She saved that girl, but she got 0 points. She sacrificed herself. Darkness took her. 1 week later, Izumi sat in her living room, staring at the fish on her dinner plate. Her right arm was still sore, wrapped in a light bandage. Her legs felt heavy. The exam results were due today. Izumi? Inko placed a cup of tea on the table. She looked anxious. Are you okay? I failed, Mom, Izumi said quietly. I didn't get a single point. I broke my body for nothing. Inko bit her lip. She sat down, taking Izumi's hand. You survived. You came home. That's enough for me, but I promised him. Izumi whispered. There was a knock at the door. Or rather, the mail slot clattered. Izumi jumped up. She ran to the door. Lying on the mat was a heavy envelope with the Yui wax seal. She grabbed it and ran to her room. She sat at her desk, staring at the envelope. It felt like a bomb. Open it. She tore the seal. A small metal disc fell out. A hologram projector? The device beeped. A projection flickered to life on the wall. I am here as a projection. All Might filled the screen, wearing a yellow suit that clashed horribly with the background. All Might? Izumi gasped. Young Midoriya! All Might shouted. It has been a week. I apologize for not contacting you, but I have been busy with my new job. That's right. I will be teaching at UA. Izumi sat up straighter. He's a teacher? Now, let's get down to business. The written exam. You passed with flying colors. Good job. All Might gave a thumbs up. But the practical? You scored 0 combat points. Izumi flinched. I knew it. However, All Might leaned into the camera. A hero course that rejects those who save others is no hero course at all. This is a job about risking your life to put your flashy nonsense into practice. The screen changed. A video played. It was the nice girl. Uraraka. She was standing in the teacher's lounge, looking determined. Please, she was saying to present Mike. Can I give some of my points to the girl with the curly hair? She saved me. She had 0 points. If she doesn't get in because she saved me, that's not fair. Izumi covered her mouth. Tears pricked her eyes. She tried to give me her points? You didn't just hit a robot, young Midoriya. All Might's voice returned, soft and proud. You inspired others. And in a hero society, there is more than one way to score. The scoreboard appeared on the screen. Izumi Midoriya, villain points 0, rescue points 60, total 60, rescue points. All Might shouted. A panel of judges watches for acts of heroism. And 60 points is more than enough to pass. Izumi's breath hitched. She stared at the number. 60. Come, young Midoriya, All Might said, extending a hand toward the camera. This is your hero academia. The hologram faded. Izumi sat in the silence of her room. The tears came then, hot and fast. She wasn't crying from sadness. She wasn't crying from pain. She gripped the edge of her desk, sobbing into her arm. I did it. The vessel had held. The path was open, and somewhere across town, looking at his own acceptance letter with a scowl, Katsuki Bakugo read the class roster list. His eyes stopped on a name, Izumi Midoriya. He crumpled the paper in his hand, smoke curling from his fingers. How? He whispered, his voice trembling with a mixture of confusion and fury. How did you do it, Deku? The uniform was gray. A sharp, slate-gray blazer with green accents, paired with a dark, pleated skirt. Izumi Midoriya stood in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom, smoothing the fabric over her hips. It was high-quality material, far superior to the scratchy wool of her junior high uniform. The red tie was tied, after 3 failed attempts and a YouTube tutorial, into a somewhat respectable knot. It's real, she whispered to her reflection. The girl in the mirror looked different than she had 10 months ago. The baby fat had melted away from her jawline, replaced by a subtle definition. Her legs, visible beneath the skirt, were no longer stick-thin. The calves were shaped by months of dragging tires through sand. She didn't look like a pro hero yet, but she no longer looked like a gust of wind would knock her over. Izumi! You're going to be late. Her mother's voice drifted from the kitchen. Izumi grabbed her yellow backpack, a new one, to replace the one scorched by explosions and slime, and rushed out. Inko Midoriya was waiting by the door, wringing her hands. She looked at her daughter, and her eyes instantly filled with tears. "Mom, please don't cry," Izumi smiled nervously, putting on her loafers. "If you cry, I'll cry, and I can't walk into UA with puffy eyes. I can't help it." Inko sniffled, producing a handkerchief from nowhere. "You look so grown up. My little Izumi, at UA High." She rushed forward, hugging Izumi tightly. "Just please be careful. I know you're strong now. All Might told me about your training. But you're still my baby. I'll be careful, Mom." Izumi squeezed back, inhaling the familiar scent of laundry detergent and home. "I promise. And your arm?" Inko pulled back, looking at Izumi's right arm. It was healed, thanks to Recovery Girl, but the memory of the purple, twisted limb from the exam still haunted the household. "It's fine. I won't break it again," Izumi lied. Or rather, she hoped. "I'm going now. I love you too. Have a good first day." Izumi stepped out of the apartment complex and into the morning sun. The air was crisp. Cherry blossoms were blooming, painting the path to the station in shades of pink. As she walked, she flexed her right hand. The power was there. She could feel it, a low hum beneath her skin, like a dormant engine. One for all. The legacy of 8 heroes, now residing in her. "I still don't know how to control it," she thought, anxiety tightening her chest. "If I use it, I break. If I don't use it, I'm quirkless. I have to find a middle ground. I have to find a way to be a hero without destroying myself." The UA campus was a fortress of glass and steel. It was intimidating, towering over the surrounding city like a monument to justice. The hallways were massive, clearly designed to accommodate students with gigantification or mutation quirks. Izumi navigated the corridors, checking the map on her phone. 1A. 1A. She stopped in front of a door. It was gigantic. The letters 1A were painted in bold red. "This is it. The hero course." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Who will be in my class? The scary people? The nice people?" She thought of the boy with the glasses who had scolded her at the orientation. "I hope I'm not in his class. He was terrifying." She thought of the nice girl, Uraraka. "I hope she's here. I want to thank her properly." And then, there was the elephant in the room. Kaken. Izumi took a deep breath. "It doesn't matter. I earned my spot. I belong here just as much as he does." She slid the massive door open. "Don't put your feet on the desk." The shout hit her instantly. "Huh! Don't you think that's rude to the UA upperclassmen and the people who made this desk?" Izumi froze in the doorway. It was the glasses boy. He was standing stiffly, chopping the air with his hand, lecturing someone. And the person he was lecturing, Katsuki Bakugo, sat with his feet propped up on the desk, leaning back in his chair with a scowl that could curdle milk. "Like I care," Katsuki sneered. "What junior high are you from, you extra?" "I attended semi-private academy," the glasses boy said, adjusting his frames. "My name is Tenya Ida." "Sama? So you're a damn elite," Katsuki scoffed. "I'll have fun crushing you." "Crushing me? Cruel!" Ida looked scandalized. "Are you truly aiming to be a hero?" Izumi felt a bead of sweat roll down her neck. "Same old Kaken." Ida turned, sensing a presence. "Ah. You're..." The entire class turned to look at the door. "It's you!" Ida marched toward her. Izumi stiffened. "Hi. I'm Izumi Midoriya." "Nice to meet you, Midoriya." Ida bowed perfectly at a 90-degree angle. "Good morning. I am Tenya Ida. I heard," Izumi squeaked. "I must apologize," Ida said, straightening up. "I misjudged you at the entrance exam. I failed to perceive the true nature of the test. You realized there was a hidden score for saving others, didn't you?" "I had no idea. You were the superior candidate." I didn't really realize it," Izumi admitted, waving her hands. "My body just moved." Behind Ida, Katsuki had gone still. Slowly, he took his feet off the desk. The casual arrogance vanished, replaced by a rigid, vibrating tension. He turned in his chair, his red eyes locking onto Izumi. He didn't scream. He didn't explode. He just stared. It was a look of utter, profound confusion. Deku? His mind couldn't process it. He had seen the name on the list, but he had assumed it was a mistake. Or a different Midoriya. But there she was. The quirkless girl. The pebble, standing in the doorway of Class 1A. How? Oh! It's the curly-haired girl. A cheerful voice broke the tension. Ochako Uraraka appeared behind Izumi, beaming. You made it! Uraraka cheered. I was hoping you would. Your punch was amazing. Like POW. She mimicked a punch. You Uraraka! Izumi blushed, happy to have a buffer between her and Katsuki's stare. Thank you for speaking to the teachers for me. I heard about it. It was nothing. But how is your arm? Uraraka grabbed Izumi's hand, checking her arm. Is it okay? It's fine. Recovery girl is amazing. I wonder what we're doing today, Uraraka chirped. The ceremony? Or orientation? If you're here to make friends, pack up and leave. The voice was dry, tired, and came from the floor. Izumi looked down. A man in a yellow sleeping bag was lying in the doorway like a giant caterpillar. He sipped a juice pouch. Eek. The girls jumped back. The man unzipped the sleeping bag and stood up. He looked exhausted. He had long, messy black hair, dry eyes, and a scruffy beard. He wore all black and a strange, gray scarf wrapped around his neck. It took you 8 seconds to quiet down, the man said, looking at his stopwatch. Time is limited. You kids are not rational enough. He scanned the room with dead eyes. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. Homeroom teacher? The class gasped. This hobo-looking man was a pro-hero. Put these on, Aizawa said, pulling a blue gym uniform out of his sleeping bag. And meet me on the grounds, the locker room. The girls' locker room was a buzz of activity. It smelled of deodorant and new fabric. Izumi felt a wave of shyness as she opened her locker. She had never been part of a group before. In junior high, the other girls avoided her because Bakugo's bullying made her a social pariah. Being near Deku meant becoming a target. So, I'm Mina Ishido. A girl with pink skin, horns, and black scara bounced over. She was already half-dressed. Your name is Midoriya, right? Why yes, Izumi stammered, holding her gym shirt to her chest. Izumi Midoriya. Nice to meet you, Izumi-chan. A girl with a frog-like appearance and large hands placed a finger on her chin. I'm Tsuya Aji. Call me Tsuyu. And I'm Toru Hagakure, said a floating gym uniform. I'm invisible. Nice to meet you all, Izumi smiled, feeling a warmth spread in her chest. They're so nice. No one is calling me names. She turned to her locker and took off her shirt. Whoa! The locker room went silent for a second. Izumi froze, shirtless. What? Is there a bug? Girl, Mina whistled, leaning in. You are ripped. Izumi blushed furiously, crossing her arms over her chest. I am? Totally. Uraraka nodded, her eyes wide. I mean, I saw you punch the robot, so I knew you were strong, but look at your back. And your abs. Izumi looked down. Her stomach was defined by a distinct six-pack. Her shoulders were capped with dense muscle. Her arms, while not bulky, were corded and veined. The 10 months of hell at Dagoba Beach had stripped away every ounce of softness, leaving behind a physique built for combat. I trained really hard for the exam, Izumi mumbled, pulling her blue gym shirt on quickly. It shows, Karo, Tsuyu said bluntly. You look like a pro already. And you have scars on your hands, a tall girl with a ponytail, Momojayorozu, observed gently. From lifting? Izumi looked at her palms. They were calloused and crisscrossed with small white lines from gripping rusted metal and jagged scrap. Yeah, Izumi said softly. From cleaning up trash. Trash? Mina tilted her head. Like community service? Something like that. Well, it paid off. Mina slapped Izumi on the back. Let's go show the boys how it's done. Izumi followed them out, feeling a strange new sensation. Pride. For the first time, her body wasn't something to be ashamed of or protected. It was something that commanded respect. The pea grounds. The sun was high now. The class gathered on the dirt field. Aizawa stood with his hands in his pockets. A quirk apprehension test? The class chorused. What about the entrance ceremony? The guidance counselor meeting? Uraraka asked. If you want to be a hero, you don't have time for such leisurely events, Aizawa said coldly. UA's selling point is freedom of style. That applies to the teachers as well. He looked at them. Softball throw. Standing long jump. 50-meter dash. Endurance run. Grip strength. Upper body training. Seated toe touch. Sit-ups. You did these in middle school, right? Without using your quirks. He turned to look at Katsuki. Bakugo. How far could you throw a softball in middle school? Katsuki stepped forward, hands in his pockets. He glanced at Izumi before answering. 67 meters. Try it with your quirk, Aizawa said, tossing him a ball. Do whatever you want as long as you stay in the circle. Katsuki walked to the circle. He stretched his arms. A cruel grin spread across his face. I'll show them. I'll show that nerd. D. Katsuki threw the ball, adding a massive explosion to the release. The blast propelled the ball like a cannon shot. Die. Izumi whispered. The ball soared, disappearing into the sky. Aizawa held up his device. It beeped. He showed the screen to the class. 705.2 meters. Whoa, that's awesome. We can use our quirks as much as we want? This is going to be fun. Mina cheered. Aizawa's expression darkened. The air temperature seemed to drop. Fun, huh? The class quieted down. You have 3 years to become a hero, Aizawa said softly. Will you have an attitude like that the whole time? He smiled. It was a terrifying, jagged smile. All right. Whoever comes in last place in all 8 tests will be judged to have no potential. He swept his hair back. And will be punished with expulsion. Expulsion? The class screamed. It's the first day. Uraraka protested. That's too unreasonable. Natural disasters. Big accidents. Selfish villains, Aizawa listed. Calamities whose time and place can't be predicted. Japan is covered in unfairness. Heroes are the ones who reverse those situations. He pointed a finger at them. If you wanted to go to Mickey D's with your friends after school, too bad. For the next 3 years, you will do all it can to give you one hardship after another. Go beyond. Plus ultra. Izumi swallowed hard. Her throat felt dry. Last place gets expelled. She looked at her classmates. Ida with his engines. Uraraka with zero gravity. Bakugo with explosions. Everyone had a quirk perfectly suited for physical tests. And her? She had a quirk that shattered her bones upon activation. If I use one for all, I break my arm. If I break my arm, I can't do the other tests. If I can't do the other tests, I come in last. But if I don't use it, I'm just a normal girl competing against superhumans. She clenched her fists. I have to think. I have to find a way. Test 1, 50-meter dash. The testing began immediately. On your mark. Izumi watched Ida line up against Tsuyu. Engine legs. He's built for this. Start. Vroom. Ida shot forward like a bullet train. He crossed the line in 3.04 seconds. Like a fish in water, Tsuyu commented, hopping across in 5.58 seconds. Next was Uraraka and a boy with a tail, Ojiro. Uraraka used her quirk on her clothes and shoes to make herself lighter. 7.15 seconds. Then, it was Izumi's turn. She was up against Bakugo. Katsuki stood in the lane next to her. He didn't look at her. He was vibrating with aggression. Don't get in my way, Deku, he muttered. I won't, Izumi said, staring down the track. Start. Katsuki blasted off. He used his explosions to propel himself backward, flying down the track. 4.13 seconds. Izumi didn't use her quirk. She ran. She dug her toes into the dirt, pumping her arms. Her form was perfect, chin down, knees high. Every sprint on the beach, every dash away from bullies, it culminated here. She crossed the line. 7.02 seconds. Not bad for a quirkless run, Ida noted, adjusting his glasses. She has excellent athletic form. Katsuki looked at the timer. He narrowed his eyes. She's faster than before. Much faster. But she didn't use a quirk. Test 2, grip strength. Izumi squeezed the dynamometer. She gritted her teeth, engaging every muscle in her forearm. 56 kilograms. Whoa! 540 kilograms. Someone shouted. Izumi looked over. A massive student with multiple arms, Shoji, was crushing the device. I'm average, Izumi thought. Above average for a girl my size, maybe, but compared to them? I'm nothing. Test 3, standing long jump. Bakugo flew across the sandbox using explosions. Aoyama, the sparkly boy, used his naval laser to launch himself. Izumi stood at the line. I can't use one for all. I'll break my legs. She took a deep breath and jumped. It was a good jump, fueled by her powerful leg muscles. She cleared the sandbox, landing in the grass. Good clearance, Aizawa noted on his clipboard. But nothing supernatural. Test 4, repeated sidesteps. Mineta, the small grape-headed boy, was the king of this test. He used his sticky balls to bounce back and forth rapidly. Izumi did her best, her feet moving in a blur, but she was just a human. As the tests went on, the reality set in. Izumi was hovering near the bottom. Not dead last. Hagakure was struggling with physical strength, and Mineta had failed the long jump and dash miserably due to his short limbs. But she was dangerously close to the cutoff, and she hadn't used her quirk once. Katsuki was watching her. He was getting angrier by the minute. Why aren't you using it? His eyes screamed. Did you lie to get in? Did you cheat? Or are you looking down on us? Test 5, ball throw. This was it. The make or break moment. Uraraka stepped up. She touched the ball. Release. She threw it. The ball floated. And floated. And floated. It didn't stop. Infinity. Infinity? The class went wild. That's cheating. That's awesome. Izumi Midoriya, Aizawa called. Izumi walked to the circle. Her heart was thumping so loud she thought Aizawa could hear it. This is the only test where I can generate a massive score to offset my average performance in the others, she analyzed. If I don't use one for all here, I'm done. She picked up the ball. I have to use it. But I can't break my arm. She remembered the image All Might had given her. The egg in the microwave. If I don't lower the wattage, the egg explodes. But I don't know how to lower the wattage yet. It's 100% or nothing. She looked at Aizawa. He was watching her with cold, tired eyes. He expected her to fail. No. I won't fail. She gripped the ball. I'll just have to break it. I'll sacrifice my arm to stay in the hero course. She wound up. She channeled the power. She felt the red veins of energy surge through her right arm. Smash! She threw the ball with everything she had. The ball flew. It landed. 46 meters. Huh! Izumi blinked. Her arm didn't hurt. It wasn't broken. But the ball, it had barely gone further than a normal throw. I tried to use it. She whispered. I erased your quirk. Izumi spun around. Aizawa stood there. His hair was floating, defying gravity. His scarf was floating too. And his eyes, they were glowing a piercing red. That entrance exam was definitely not rational enough, Aizawa said, his voice dripping with disdain. Even a kid like you was accepted. You. Izumi recognized the goggles around his neck. You're the erasure hero. Eraserhead. Eraser? The class murmured. Never heard of him. He's an underground hero, Izumi muttered instinctively. Aizawa stepped forward, closing the distance. From what I watched, you can't control your quirk, can you? He looked down at her. Do you intend to become incapacitated again and have someone save you? That's not my intention. Aizawa's scarf shot out, wrapping around Izumi's waist and pulling her close. They were nose to nose. Whatever your intention, I'm saying that's what those around you will be forced to do. He showed her his elbow. In the past, there was an oppressively hot-blooded hero who saved over 1,000 people during a disaster. You have the same reckless valor, but you are useless after saving one person. His red eyes bored into her soul. Izumi Midoriya. You cannot become a hero with that power. Izumi trembled. It was the roof all over again. You can't be a hero. Aizawa blinked. His hair fell. The red glow faded. I've returned your quirk, he said, releasing her. He turned and walked back to the sidelines. You have 2 tries for the ball throw. Hurry up and get it over with. Izumi stood in the circle, clutching her chest. He's right. If I break my arm, I'm a liability. She looked at the ball in her hand. But if I do nothing, I'm expelled. Think, Izumi. Think. She recalled the feeling of the smash against the 0-pointer. The power flowing through her entire body. I can't control the output. It's 100%. But do I need to use it on my whole arm? She gripped the ball loosely. If I focus the power, not in the arm, but at the very last second. She took a stance. Aizawa watched her, reaching for his eye drops. She has 0 potential. I should just expel her now. Izumi wound up. She threw the ball like a normal softball pitch. Movement first. Power second. As her arm whipped forward, she channeled one for all. Not into her shoulder. Not into her bicep. She pushed it all into the tip of her right index finger. Just the fingertip. Smash! She cried internally. Crack! The air exploded. A shockwave blasted dust into the faces of her classmates. The ball shot out of her hand like a laser beam, tearing through the sky with a sonic boom. Izumi gritted her teeth against the sharp, stinging pain. The ball disappeared. Aizawa stared at the sky, his eye drops hovering halfway to his face. Beep. He turned the screen to the class. 705.3 meters. Izumi panted, clutching her right hand. Her index finger was purple, swollen, and definitely broken. But the rest of her arm was fine. She could still move. She could still fight. She turned to Aizawa, forcing a shaky, defiant smile. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes from the pain, but she held his gaze. Sensei. She gasped. I can still move. Aizawa's lips curled up. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator who had found something interesting. Ho! The class erupted. She got over 700 meters? Finally, a hero-like record. Her finger is swollen. That looks painful. Whatever. She beat Bakugo by 0.1 meters. Katsuki stood frozen. His mind was white noise. 700 meters? A quirk? Since when? Memories flashed before his eyes. Izumi following him around as a toddler. The doctor saying she was quirkless. The years of bullying. The river. The slime villain. She lied. The thought was a poison dart. She's been lying to me for 10 years. She's been watching me brag about being the best, all while hiding this power? Was she laughing at me? Was she waiting for the perfect moment to humiliate me? Rage, hot and blinding, overtook him. Hey! Katsuki launched himself forward. Explosions crackled in his palms. DKU! You bastard! Izumi shrieked, cowering back. Tell me how you did that, damn it! He was fast. He was going to reach her. He was going to blast her. Zip! The scarf wrapped around Katsuki like a python, binding his arms and mouth. He struggled, but the cloth was harder than steel. NGGH. Stop using your quirk, Aizawa said, his hair floating again. You're giving me dry eye. It's... You raise her head. The class whispered. We're wasting time, Aizawa said, releasing Bakugo. The blonde boy stumbled, glaring at Izumi with a mixture of hatred and betrayal that made her heart ache. Prepare for the next test. The results. The sun was setting. The students were exhausted. Izumi held her throbbing finger. Recovery girl hadn't seen it yet, so she had just taped it up. Time for the results, Aizawa said. The total is simply the marks you got from each test. It's a waste of time to explain verbally, so I'll show you. He pressed a button. A hologram appeared. Izumi closed her eyes. Please not last. Please not last. She opened one eye. 1. Momo Yaoyorozu. 2. Shoto Todoroki. 3. Katsuki Bakugo. 4. Tenya Ida. 16. Tsuyu Ajiri. 17. Izumi Midoriya. 18. Hantasiro. 19. Toru Hagakure. 20. Minoru Mineta. Izumi gasped. 17th. She wasn't last. Her grip strength and the soft ball throw had saved her. Mineta, with his poor performance in the distance run and long jump, and Hagakure's lack of physical strength, had fallen below her. By the way, Aizawa said, turning off the hologram. I was lying about the expulsion. Ha! The class dropped their jaws. It was a logical ruse, Aizawa said with a creepy grin, to draw out the upper limits of your potential. What? Uraraka, Ida, and Izumi screamed. Of course it was a lie, Yayorosa sighed, hand on her chest. It was obvious if you thought about it. That was a little nerve-wracking, wasn't it? Shiro laughed nervously. I'll take up the challenge any time. Kirishima shouted, pumping a hardened fist. Aizawa turned to walk away. Here's a curriculum sheet. Read it over. Midoriya. Izumi jumped. Why yes, have the old lady fix your finger. Ideally, stop breaking yourself. It's inefficient. Yes, sir. Aizawa walked away. As he turned the corner of the building, he pulled out his phone. A logical ruse, huh? All Might was hiding around the corner. All Might, Aizawa grunted. So you were watching. You liar, All Might accused. You expelled an entire class of first years last year. You have zero tolerance for those without potential. You act tough, but you're actually kind. Kind? Aizawa scoffed. I just didn't see the logic in cutting someone who clearly has potential. He looked back at the field, where Izumi was being swarmed by Uraraka and Ida. She's rough. She's reckless. But for a split second, the odds were against her, and she found a way to win without destroying herself completely. Aizawa pocketed his phone. She might just become a hero after all. The walk home. The day ended. Izumi's finger was healed. With a stern lecture and a gummy bear from Recovery Girl, she walked out of the school gates, feeling light. She had done it. She had survived the first day. Midoriya! She turned. Ida was marching toward her. I must inquire, Ida said. Your finger. Is it truly healed? Oh, Ida-kun. Yes, Recovery Girl is amazing. Hey! Wait for me. Uraraka ran up, panting. You guys walk so fast. Let's walk to the station together. Uraraka-san! Izumi smiled. You were so cool today, Midoriya-chan. Uraraka beamed. That throw was intense. And you stood up to Bakugo. I was terrified, Izumi admitted. Speaking of Bakugo, Ida said, adjusting his glasses. He seemed quite hostile towards you. Are you acquaintances? Izumi looked down at her shoes. We're childhood friends. Sort of. He's complicated. He's always been the best at everything. And I've always been, well, me. She looked up at the sky. But today, I think things changed. I'm not just Deku the Pebble anymore. Deku? Uraraka tilted her head. It's what Kaken calls me. It means useless. That's mean. Uraraka frowned. Then she smiled. But you know, I kinda like Deku. Huh, it sounds like Dikaira. Like you can do it. Izumi blushed. Really? Yeah. It's cute. I think I'll call you Deku-chan. Deku. Izumi mumbled. Only moments ago, it was an insult. A brand of weakness. But when Uraraka said it, it sounded like hope. I'm Deku. Izumi blurted out. Midoriya? Ida looked confused. You're accepting it that easily? It's like a Copernican revolution. Izumi covered her red face. As they walked into the sunset, laughing and talking, Izumi felt a sense of belonging she had never known. She had friends. She had a quirk. She had a future. Behind them, watching from the school gate, Katsuki Bakugo stood in the shadows. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't exploding. He was just watching, his fists clenched so tight his palms were bleeding. You've been looking down on me this whole time, he thought, his eyes burning. Fine. If you want to play hero, Deku, I'll crush you. I'll crush you until there's nothing left. The rivalry had begun. But this time, Izumi wasn't running away. The afternoon sun filtered through the high windows of Class 1A, casting long, geometric shadows across the desks. The air was thick with the distinct, electric tension that only teenagers with superpowers could generate. Izumi Midoriya sat at her desk, her notebook open, but she wasn't writing. Her eyes were fixed on the back of the ash-blonde head in front of her. Katsuki Bakugo hadn't spoken to her since the quirk apprehension test the day before. He hadn't yelled, he hadn't exploded, and he hadn't called her Deku. He had simply existed in a sphere of silent, radiating fury. It was worse than the shouting. The shouting she knew how to navigate. The silence was a minefield without a map. I am The door to the classroom burst open, slamming against the wall with enough force to rattle the windows. Coming through the door like a normal person, it's All Might. The class erupted in a collective gasp of awe. There he was. The symbol of peace. Standing in the doorway in his Silver-Age costume, his cape billowing as if caught in a personal wind tunnel, his smile blindingly bright, he marched to the podium, flexing with every step. I can't believe he's really teaching us, Kaminari whispered, leaning over his desk. Look at that muscle definition. He looks so retro. Tsuyu added, a finger on her chin. All Might posed behind the podium, his hands on his hips. Foundational Hero Studies. For this class, we'll be building your hero foundation through various trials. Let's jump right in with this. He pulled out a card with the word battle emblazoned on it in bold comic book font. The trial of battle. Battle. Bakugo's head snapped up. The lethargy vanished instantly, replaced by a predatory hunger, and to go with that, All Might pressed a button on a remote. The wall to the left of the classroom hissed open, revealing rows of numbered metal cases sliding out from the wall. Performance gear, based on the quirk registration forms and requests you sent in before school started. Costumes. The excitement in the room spiked to fever pitch. Get changed and gather at ground beta. All Might commanded. And remember, from here on out you are all heroes. The locker room. The girls' locker room was a flurry of fabric and excitement. I love my costume, Mina squealed, pulling on a bodysuit with a purple acid-proof camouflage pattern. It's so cute. Mine is a bit tighter than I expected, Uraraka murmured, tugging self-consciously at her pink and black suit. She looked at Izumi. Wow, Midoriya-chan. Yours looks so serious. Izumi stood by her open locker, running her hand over the fabric of her costume. She had designed it carefully. Or rather, she had agonizingly overthought it for weeks. She didn't want something flashy. She didn't want to look like a magical girl or a pin-up model. She wanted to look like someone who could carry the weight of the world. She pulled on the bodysuit. It was a durable, ballistic weave fabric in a deep, verdant green, darker than her hair, almost approaching black in the shadows. Over the torso was a white, armored vest that evoked the shape of a heart, padded to protect her ribs. She pulled on her boots, heavy, iron-soled combat boots designed to absorb the impact of her landings. She strapped on her red utility belt, filled with medical supplies and capture tape. Finally, she attached the cape. It wasn't a long, flowing cape like All Might's. It was a short, white mantle that draped over her shoulders and stopped at her waist, clasped with a silver button. She looked in the mirror. She pulled on a mouth guard that covered the lower half of her face, giving her a slightly menacing, industrial look. Then she pulled up the hood of the mantle, which had two long, ear-like protrusions. It's a bunny? Tsuyu asked, tilting her head. It's supposed to be All Might's hair tufts, Izumi admitted, blushing beneath the mask. But yeah? It looks like a bunny. It's cute. Toru's floating gloves gave a thumbs up. Like a fierce battle bunny. I like the white mantle, Momo commented, adjusting her own revealing creation. It gives you a very noble silhouette. Like a paladin. Thanks, Izumi breathed, clenching her gloved fists. It's not just a costume. It's a promise. Ground Beta. All Might stood at the entrance of the mock city, watching his students emerge from the tunnel. They say the clothes make the man, young men and ladies. He boomed. Be fully aware, from now on, you are heroes. He scanned the group. They looked magnificent. Colorful, unique, and brimming with potential. Then he saw her. Izumi walked out last, adjusting her gloves. The white mantle fluttered in the breeze. The sturdy boots crunched on the pavement. The green suit hugged her athletic frame, highlighting the muscle she had built over the last 10 months. For a second, All Might didn't see Izumi Midoriya. He saw a ghost. The white mantle. The dark suit. The proud, upright posture. Master. It wasn't a direct copy of Nana Shimura's outfit, but the spirit was there. The elegance. The strength wrapped in grace. It hit Tashinori Yagi in the chest with the force of a physical blow. He had to clear his throat to stop his voice from cracking. Looking good, everyone. He managed, though his eyes lingered on Izumi a moment longer than the others. Now, shall we get started? Sensei. Ida raised his hand. He was wearing a suit of armor that made him look like a car engine come to life. This appears to be the same field used for the entrance exam. Will we be performing city maneuvers again? No. We're moving on to step 2. All Might explained. Indoor anti-personnel battle training. Villain cleanup is usually seen outdoors, but statistically, the most heinous villains appear indoors. Imprisonment, house arrest, backroom deals. In this society, truly intelligent villains hide in the shadows. He held up 2 boxes. You'll be split into villain and hero teams for a 2-on-2 battle. The villains hide a nuclear weapon somewhere in the building. The heroes must catch the villains or touch the nuclear core within the time limit. The villains win if they protect the core or capture the heroes. No predetermined teams? Tsuya asked. Heroes often have to team up with other agencies on the spot. All Might reasoned. Now let's draw lots. Izumi reached into the box. Her fingers brushed against a piece of paper. She pulled it out. Team A. Team A? Uraraka peeked over her shoulder. Hey! Me too! We're a team, Deku-chan. Really? Izumi let out a breath of relief. Oh, thank goodness. I was worried I'd be with someone scary, and the first matchup is... All Might dug into the boxes. He pulled out 2 balls. Team A heroes versus Team D villains. Izumi froze. Team D. She looked across the crowd. Katsuki Bakugo stood there, holding the ball with the letter D. Standing next to him was Tenya Ida. Katsuki wasn't looking at All Might. He was looking at her. He wore a black tank top with a large orange X across the chest, baggy pants, and massive, grenade-shaped gauntlets on his forearms. A metal explosion pattern mask covered his eyes, but she could feel the glare burning through it. He dragged his thumb across his neck in a cutting motion. Izumi swallowed hard. Her hands began to tremble. Of course. It had to be him. Everyone else, head to the monitoring room. All Might shouted. Team A and Team D, you're up. Villains, go in and set up. Heroes, you enter in 5 minutes. As the class filed out, Katsuki walked past Izumi. He didn't stop, but he leaned in close, his voice a low, gravelly rasp. Don't think I'll go easy on you just because you're a girl, Deku. Today, I expose you for the fraud you are. He walked into the dark building. Izumi stood there, the wind rustling her white mantle. Uraraka looked at her, concerned. Deku-chan? You're shaking. Izumi gripped her own arms to stop the tremors. I know. It's a habit. But, she looked up, her emerald eyes hardening behind her mask. I'm not scared of him anymore. I'm just getting ready. The infiltration. Inside the building, the air was stale and dusty. We have the map, Uraraka whispered, checking a small laminated sheet. The weapon is probably on one of the upper floors. Ida-kun is serious, so he'll pick a defensible spot. Right, Izumi nodded. She was muttering again, her hand on her chin. Kaken won't care about the weapon. He's impulsive, but his combat instincts are genius level. He'll come for me. He wants a fight. He wants to prove he's better. So, a surprise attack? Uraraka asked. Almost certainly. They crept through the first-floor hallway. It was a maze of concrete pillars and blind corners. Uraraka-san, Izumi whispered. If he shows up, I need you to run. Find the weapon. I'll distract him. But, I'm the only one who knows how he moves, Izumi said, her voice tight. And he's fixated on me. If we stick together, he'll just blast us both. Boom. The wall to their right exploded inward. Debris and dust sprayed across the hallway. Izumi reacted instantly. Get back! She shoved Uraraka out of the way, diving in the opposite direction. A cloud of smoke filled the corridor. From the swirling gray dust, a shadow emerged. Found you. Katsuki lunged, his right hand crackling. He didn't aim a massive blast. He aimed a precise, focused explosion right at Izumi's face. He starts with a right hook. Always. Izumi didn't use one for all. She didn't have time to charge it without risking a bone break. Instead, she used physics. As Katsuki swung, Izumi ducked low, stepping inside his guard. Katsuki's eyes widened behind his mask. She's stepping in? Izumi grabbed his right wrist with her left hand and his shirt collar with her right. She pivoted on her heel, using her hips as a fulcrum. Hero analysis notes, close quarters combat. Utilizing the opponent's momentum. Judo throw, she slammed him. It wasn't a superhuman feat, it was leverage. Katsuki, who had put all his weight forward into the attack, flew over her shoulder. His back hit the concrete floor with a bone-rattling thud. The air was knocked out of his lungs. Gah! Izumi stood over him, panting. She assumed a fighting stance. Legs wide, fists raised, just like she had practiced on the beach sand. Uraraka-san, go! She screamed. Uraraka, wide-eyed, scrambled to her feet. All right. She sprinted toward the stairs. Katsuki lay on the floor for a second, staring at the ceiling. The pain in his back was dull compared to the shock in his brain. She threw me? He sat up, growling. He looked at Izumi. She wasn't cowering. She wasn't crying. She was looking at him with a gaze he had never seen before. It was sharp. Analytical. Deku. Katsuki hissed, scrambling to his feet. Smoke poured from his palms. You've been reading me this whole time? Taking notes? Am I just a book to you? You're amazing, Kaken, Izumi said, her voice trembling but loud. You start with a big right swing. You always do. Because you're confident you'll hit. She tightened her gloves. But I'm not the punching bag you remember. I'm going to be a hero. And that means I have to beat you. Don't mock me. Katsuki launched himself again. This time, he used his left hand to create a small explosion for a mid-air course correction. He spun, swinging a leg kick. Izumi blocked it with her forearms, grunting as the force slid her backward. He adjusted. He's reacting fast. Katsuki didn't let up. He unleashed a barrage of explosions. Bam! 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 Izumi dodged, weaved, and blocked. Her costume was getting scorched. She couldn't find an opening. Without using her quirk, she was physically outmatched by his speed and ferocity. I have to hide. I need a plan. She saw a turn in the corridor. She threw a handful of capture tape at his face as a distraction and sprinted around the corner. Get back here! Katsuki roared, burning the tape away. The monitoring room. Whoa! That throw was sick! Kirishima shouted, pumping his fist. Midoriya's got moves. She's handling Bakugo well, Sero noted. But she's running away now. All Might watched the screen intensely. His hands gripped the podium. Young Bakugo is letting his emotions rule him, he thought. But his combat sense is undeniable. And young Midoriya, she is hesitating to use one for all against a human. She is afraid of hurting him. Bakugo looks really scary, Tsuya noted. Like a villain. He's taking this personal, Mina said, frowning. What's their deal? The hunt. Izumi crouched behind a pillar on the third floor. She could hear him. Heavy boots stomping. The crackle of nitroglycerin. Where are you hiding, you damn nerd? Katsuki's voice echoed. You think you can trick me? You think because you got some fancy power suddenly, you're better than me? Izumi peeked out. Katsuki was stalking down the hallway. He looked unhinged, but his eyes were calculating. He was checking corners. He's scared, Izumi realized with a jolt. He's terrified that his worldview, where he is the strongest and I am the weakest, is wrong. If I'm strong, then what is he? She stepped out. I don't think I'm better than you, Kaken! She shouted. Katsuki spun around. There you are. I think you're amazing! Izumi yelled, tears pricking her eyes. You have talent. You have drive. Everyone knows you're going to be a top hero. But that's exactly why. She clenched her fists, the one for all lightning sparking faintly around her skin, green electricity dancing across the surface. That's why I want to beat you. To prove that I can stand on the same stage. That I'm not just a pebble in your path. Katsuki stared at her. The electricity. The look in her eyes. It reminded him of the river. When he fell, and she offered a hand, he hated that hand. He hated that look. It looked like pity. It looked like she thought he was weak. Stop looking at me. Katsuki raised his right gauntlet. He reached for the pin on the side. Like I'm someone you need to save. Young Bakugo, stop. All Might's voice boomed over the speakers. Are you trying to kill her? If you use that gauntlet indoors, the blast will be lethal. She won't die if she dodges. Katsuki screamed. He pulled the pin. Click. The stored nitroglycerin ignited. A massive torrent of fire erupted from the gauntlet. It consumed the hallway. The wall of the building was blown outward. The heat was instantaneous and searing. Izumi saw the fire coming. I can't dodge this. The hallway is too narrow. She crossed her arms in an X. One for all, 5%. No more. I need defense. The blast hit her. It felt like being hit by a train made of lava. The floor beneath her feet crumbled. She was thrown backward, smashing through a classroom door, tumbling across the room until she hit the far wall. Cough! Cough! Smoke filled the room. Izumi lay in the debris, her ears ringing. Her costume was singed. Her left sleeve was burned away, revealing reddened skin. Midoriya! Midoriya, answer me! All Might was shouting. I'm okay. Izumi rasped, struggling to stand. Her legs were shaking violently. Through the hole in the wall, Katsuki walked in. The smoke swirled around him like a cape. He looked demonic. You're still standing, he said, his voice void of emotion now. Good. He raised his other gauntlet. This is the difference between us, Deku. You have a borrowed power you can't control. I have a power that is mine. I honed it. I mastered it, he charged. Izumi checked her earpiece. Uraraka-san! What's your status? I found the weapon. Uraraka's voice was frantic. But Ida-kun saw me. He's cleaned the room. There's nothing to float. I can't get close. Ida cleaned the room? Izumi almost laughed. Of course he did. Deku! Katsuki was on her. He launched himself into the air, using an explosion to boost his speed, coming down for a devastating smash. Izumi looked up. Time seemed to slow down. I can't beat him in a fistfight. Not yet. I don't have the experience. And I can't shoot him with one for all, or I'll kill him. But I don't need to knock him out. I just need to win the battle trial. Uraraka-san! Izumi screamed into the comms. Grab onto a pillar. Secure yourself. What? Izumi looked at Katsuki falling toward her. I'm sorry, Kaken. But this isn't about you and me. It's about the mission. She didn't dodge. She stepped forward. She channeled one for all. Not into her finger. Into her entire right arm. She felt the bones groan under the pressure. The power screamed to be released. Detroit. Katsuki swung his explosion downward. Izumi swung her fist upward. Smayawash. She didn't punch Katsuki. She punched the air directly above her head. The pressure wave was catastrophic. It met Katsuki's explosion and blew it away. But more importantly, it hit the ceiling. Crack boom. The concrete ceiling shattered. The force traveled upward, punching a hole through the 4th floor, then the 5th floor. The entire building shook as if hit by an earthquake. In the weapon room on the 5th floor, the floor beneath Ida's feet erupted. What in the name of? Ida stumbled. The debris from the floor, rocks, rebar, concrete chunks, flew into the air. Now Uraraka! Izumi screamed, her voice cracking as she collapsed. Uraraka saw the debris. A weapon! Thank you, Deku-chan. She slapped her hands together over a massive chunk of concrete pillar. Home run comet! She swung the pillar like a bat, hitting the floating debris toward Ida. Improvised projectiles? Ida gasped, raising his arms to block the hail of rocks. This is dangerous. While he was distracted by the meteor shower, Uraraka leapt. Release! She deactivated her quirk on herself, restoring her gravity. She tackled the papier-mâché nuclear core. Gotcha! The buzzer sounded. Hero team wins. The aftermath. Silence reigned on the 3rd floor. The dust began to settle. Sunlight streamed through the massive hole in the ceiling, illuminating the destruction. Izumi lay on her back in the rubble. Her right arm was purple again. Broken. Not as badly as the entrance exam, but unusable. Her costume was in tatters. She was breathing in shallow, ragged gasps. I won, she whispered. Standing a few feet away, Katsuki Bakugo stared at the hole in the ceiling. He was untouched by the final smash. She hadn't aimed at him. She had ignored him. She had used him as a distraction to win the objective. His hands fell to his sides. The gauntlets felt heavy. He turned to look at Izumi. She was unconscious, a small, broken figure in the dust. She beat me. It wasn't a physical defeat. He could still fight. She was down. But in the context of the hero trial, he had lost completely. He had focused on the brawl, and she had focused on the victory. He started to shake. It started in his hands and spread to his shoulders. Damn it! He screamed at the ceiling, a raw, guttural sound of frustration that echoed through the empty building. The infirmary was quiet. Recovery girl had treated Izumi's arm and scolded her for 20 minutes straight before letting her sleep. Back in the monitoring room, the class was subdued. The violence of the fight had sobered them. Well, All Might said, looking at the students. Despite the intense nature of the battle, the hero team won. Can anyone tell me who the MVP of this match was? It was Ida, a calm voice said. Everyone turned. It was Momo Yaoyorozu. Ida? All Might blinked. Not young Midoriya or Uraraka? No, Momo said, stepping forward. Ida was the only one who adapted fully to the role. He secured the weapon, cleared the room of potential projectiles, and maintained a defensive position. She gestured to the screen. Bakugo acted on a personal grudge, abandoning the objective and using lethal force indoors. It was reckless and unbecoming of a hero. He failed as a villain and as a combatant. Katsuki, standing in the corner, flinched. He didn't retort. He just stared at the floor. And Midoriya, Momo continued gently but firmly. While her final strategy was brilliant, she allowed herself to be baited into a confrontation she was ill-equipped for. She caused massive property damage that would have endangered the nuclear core if this were real. And she destroyed her own arm again. Uraraka let her guard down in the middle of the battle. Momo finished. So, by elimination, Ida was the most competent. I see. All Might gave a stiff thumbs up. She explained it better than I could. Now, let's move on to the next match. Sunset. The school day ended. Izumi walked out of the main building, her arm in a sling. She felt drained, both physically and emotionally. Deku! She stopped. Katsuki was waiting by the gate. He wasn't slouching. He was standing straight, looking at her. Kaken. Izumi took a step back instinctively. I lost, Katsuki said. The words hung in the air. In the fight, maybe I had the upper hand. But in the trial, you beat me. And that ponytail girl was right. I was acting like an idiot. He looked up. His eyes were red, rimmed with moisture that he angrily blinked away. But don't think this changes anything. I'm just getting started. I'm going to become the #1 hero. I'm going to surpass you, and All Might, and everyone else. He pointed a finger at her. So don't you dare lose to anyone else, Deku. Until I crush you properly, you're mine to beat. He spun around and stomped off, shoulders hunched. Izumi watched him go. A strange warmth filled her chest. It wasn't forgiveness. He had a long way to go for that, but it was acknowledgement. For the first time, he saw her as a rival, not a bug. I won't lose, Kaken, she whispered to the wind. Midoriya? A cool voice spoke from her left. She turned. Shoto Todoroki stood there. The boy with the half-white, half-red hair who had frozen the entire building in the second match instantly. He was staring at her arm. Or rather, at the power lingering in it. That power, Todoroki said, his heterochromatic eyes narrowing. It creates a massive pressure wind that breaks your body. It's very similar to All Might's. Izumi's heart skipped a beat. Are you All Might's secret love child or something? Pfft. Izumi choked on her own spit. What? No. Definitely not. Why would you think that? Todoroki didn't laugh. He just stared at her intensely. Whatever. You have a connection to him. That makes you an obstacle. He stepped closer, the temperature dropping around him. My old man is Endeavor. The eternal #2 hero. He's been trying to surpass All Might for decades. He couldn't do it. So he made me. Izumi blinked. Made you? I'm going to beat you, Midoriya, Todoroki said coldly. I'm going to show my old man that I can stand at the top without using his damn fire power. I'll reject him by winning with only my mother's ice. He walked away, leaving a trail of frost on the pavement. Izumi stood alone at the gate. First Bakugo. Now Todoroki. She looked at her broken arm. She looked at the setting sun. Everyone is so intense, she sighed, adjusting her sling. I just wanted to save people. She smiled weakly. Guess I have to save myself first.